especially when they are successful. This live will explain one of the biggest reasons that I have seen in my work as a former divorce attorney and now as a life coach who works with high achievers who want to have the best life. And if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Diana Bando. I'm a licensed attorney, I'm a certified master life coach, and I work with clients who want to live, beautiful, expansive, incredible lives. And a big part of that is having amazing relationships, because relationships will either enhance the quality of your life or make it a living hell. So let's get right into it. So I am going to be looking at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. But what I wanted to talk about is kind of the stakes for women, especially when you are successful, especially when you're high achieving, and not understanding this one big thing that will make all the difference in the world between being able to be in a happy, healthy relationship that adds to your success and finding yourself in a relationship that leaves you worse off when it's over than you were when you started. And when I mean worse off, I mean less money, less peace, less joy, fewer friends, like literally worse off. And to kind of exemplify the point I want to make, I want to tell you a story before I get into it. So, one of my girlfriends, she's on her second marriage now, but in her first marriage, she married for love. She's very successful, worked for Bank of New York Mellon, made a lot of money, and was like, she grew up from humble beginnings. So she wasn't looking for, someone to save her. She just wanted love. So she meets this guy, falls in love. He's not doing as well as she is financially, but she didn't care because she made a lot of money. So anyway, they get married, they have a baby, and while that baby is like still on her hip, she goes to the door one day and a US Marshal is there with a warrant, not for his arrest, a warrant ordering him to take a paternity test. And when he took that test, it showed that there was another baby that was a 99% genetic match. So she files for divorce because she's thinking, like, what the hell? Like, I'm paying all the bills anyway. I'm the one who gave birth to this baby anyway. Like, what? I don't need the dead weight. I don't need to pay for a man who's cheating on me, right? So she gets divorced and in the process is ordered to pay spousal support. And, a lot of times, like, women get married to men thinking, like, well, I make more money, I can pay for everything. I just need him for love. And don't realize that if you don't pay attention to this thing that I'm going to explain, you will often end up worse off. And the thing that you need to pay attention to is figuring out whether or not this individual is just a male or if he is a man. Because the truth is, being a male, like that's something that happens by birth, but being a man is the result of responsibility and choices and intention. And, anybody can be a male, just, out of the womb. And they all start as boys. But being a man is something that you evolve into. And why does that matter? Because in relationships, especially with women, men give more than they take, and boys take more than they give. So, why do we care? Um, well, especially in the case of successful women, which is who I'm talking to, you can end up losing so much. There's someone in my world who she started a business when she was married and she's with her husband for, I want to say like 3 or 4 years. But she started the business after getting married. The business did well. She paid all the bills. He, stayed home. And yeah, boys to men, that's funny. And when she filed for divorce, and she wanted the divorce because she felt like she was doing all the work in the marriage and he wasn't doing anything. When she filed for divorce, he told her that he wanted $1 million, like an actual, like one with 6 zeros, $1 million. And wound up becoming a big, point of contention because the $1 million was his half of a business. Um, oh, Andrew, that's so sweet. If you want to donate, there's actually links in my bio. Um, but yeah, she started a business without any help from him, and he asked for $1 million. So let's get into it. So, what is the difference between a boy and a man? I said it's responsibility and choices. And the big distinguishing factor is, does he consume more than he creates, or does he create more than he consumes? So Lord Acton said 50-50. So yes, in a no fault state, it's 50-50, but I am specifically speaking to women who get into marriages, end up paying for everything, and then when they get divorced, think that because they paid for everything, they're just going to be able to walk away and don't realize that the way that the law works, you can end up having to pay spousal support. You can end up having to, the money that you, let's see. Oh, someone said they're starting middle school tomorrow. I can make another video about starting middle school, Andrew, if you want. Um, so anyway, what I want to talk about next is what happens when you actually find a man, right? So I talked about the difference between a boy and a man, right? Boys consume more than they create. They expect to be taken care of. Men, um, consume or create more than they consume. So if you think about like throughout human history, right? So men have built societies. Men have been the ones for who've pushed society forward. So men are the ones who are built. If you look through history, in most cultures, there's been some formal rite of passage that a boy had to go through to become a man. And one of the problems in modern society is there isn't a really clear path for boys to go through to become a man. And so if you as an adult, as a caretaker, don't give a boy a really clear, do this is how you get your man card, 9 times out of 10, what will happen is he will pick the path for himself. And depending on the influences and who's around him, might pick wisely or might pick poorly. I have a girlfriend with a son who's in his late teens, and they're she's married to an accountant. They've got a really great, middle class life, but their son wasn't given a clear path from, going from boy to becoming a man. And so he looked around, didn't really see like his father as that example. So he found it, unfortunately, in a gang, ended up stealing a car, and is now not living at home. And so the reason that this matters is because, oh, thank you, Andrew. The reason this matters is because, men are the ones who make great husbands, great fathers. Boys are the ones who are still seeking a path. And a person's age isn't what distinguishes whether they're boy or man. What distinguishes boys from men is their level of accountability, their level of responsibility, and whether they see it as their job to protect and to provide, or whether they just want to take, take, take. And so, as a woman, your feminine embodiment is what activates a man's desire to either be generous or desire to be predatory. And there's three main ways that you need to embody the divine feminine that will have the best impact of making sure that you get him behaving in his healthy masculine energy. And so those three main ways are by embodying your goddess energy, your mother energy, and your siren energy. So I'll talk about all three and why they're important. First, we'll talk about the siren energy, the sexual energy. That's important because that is what gets attention, right? Like if men are not sexually attracted to you, 9 times out of 10, you're absolutely invisible. So if you are, whether you're married, whether you're dating, if you're wanting, the best of a man, you first have to get his attention, and that's with sexual energy. And the kind of key with this is there's so many sexy women, and now there's robots and AI. So while it is important to have this sexual energy and to be what your particular, whether it's your husband, your boyfriend, or someone you're interested in dating, being what he wants sexually is important. That is not enough, because there's always a better looking woman, there's always someone younger, there's always someone who's more of whatever he's into. So it is important, but it's not enough, and there's a lot of women who just lead with that. And the mistake that they make is thinking that attention is, the same as devotion, is the same as love, is the same as commitment. It's not, it's just attention. And if you're just using sexual energy, it's just going to be short term. So the second energy that matters is the mother energy. And that is the nurturing energy, the come here, like let me hold you close. And that energy is important because that is what triggers a man's desire to protect. He's got to see that nurturing side. And so if you're a woman like, me, I have a day job as an attorney, if you're someone who's used to being in your going, doing, achieving, success energy, it's very likely that when you are in dating and interacting with men or in marriage, you're not displaying your nurturing side. And so one thing you can do is intentionally get some living thing, whether it's a plant, a pet, doesn't matter, um, and have something in your life that you take care of. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to show you. Like for me, I've got my little plants. Well, that's one of them. There's two of them, but have something that you take care of, because that helps activate that nurturing side that when you are in the presence of a man, activates his desire to be protective. And then the third is the goddess energy. And the goddess is like that diva energy, being the main character woman. And why that matters is because men have always responded very powerfully to goddesses. If you look through human history, men would worship goddesses before going to war, before going to sea, before going to hunt, before anything dangerous. They would like pledge their body to the goddess, to her service. And I believe that men still have that desire to, have a goddess in their life that they live for, that gives them purpose, that, is why they get up and do what they do, why they go out into the world and compete with other men for money. And so having that, you know, element of, when he's in your presence, he feels like he's, you know, in the presence of something divine from another world is also important. And so you can cultivate that by having a spiritual practice, but also by really investing in your beauty and being intentional about taking care of your skin and your nails and, wearing beautiful clothes that then, walking in a feminine way rather than like, walking like a freaking linebacker, like walking like a woman, with your hips moving. And so those are the three feminine frequencies that activate, the healthy masculine desire to protect and to provide. And so the two part, that you want to do, whether you're married, dating, to get the best out of a man is first of all, make sure that you're dealing with a man, not a male. So look at the track record in his life. Does he have a record of generating more than he consumes, or does he have a track record of consuming more than he offers, right? Because that's the test between boy versus man, male versus man. And then next, once you are in the presence of a man, making sure that you have those three embodiments, the goddess, the mother, the siren, and that you're bringing all three of those at the same time so that you can be the one who activates the healthy masculine protector provider rather than just activating the predator, which when I say predator, I'm not talking about toxic masculinity. I'm talking about, the part of a man that's required to go out into the world and hunt and kill. There has to be that little predatory piece. It's a good thing. But what you don't want as a woman is to show up in ways that activate him to turn that on you. And so, in the examples of these women that I was talking about, they'd activated the predator in their husbands, which is why getting divorced, they're having to pay $1 million for half of a business that she started without his help, or spousal support to someone who is using the money to support his mistress and side baby. And so you want to, like I said, show up in ways that activate his desire to protect you and provide for you rather than activate his desire to protect himself from you and to provide for himself at your expense. So, I hope that makes sense. I hope that was helpful. If you are wanting a deeper dive into these three frequencies, how to embody them, how to be a woman who activates the desire to protect and provide, I have a course. It's called the Unforgettable Woman Formula, and it breaks down like these three energies, but what you can do to actually embody them and show up with them so that it becomes natural, like breathing, as opposed to something you have to remember to do. So that as you are moving through the world, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in dating, you are knowing who to, focus on, and then also knowing how to behave in a way that will activate the best behavior from any man, whether it's a romantic partner or whether it's a coworker or whether it's, whoever. You want to embody these energies in the right way so that you have the best interactions possible. So I will put a link to the Unforgettable Woman Formula in the description box for the replay of this live. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I love answering questions. And I have recently committed to going live every single day. So if you have suggestions for other lives I could do, please leave those in the comments every single day. Leave those in the comments as well because I love having ideas based on things people want to hear about. So that is all for now. I will see you in the next one.